But by design, I also recognize that a lot of those people aren't going to my page to see negativity. And so not just protecting myself or the people that work with me, but also the supporters. So I don't have the comments section on.
The conversation around Meghan Markle has reached a turning point in America. What was once whispered in private is now being spoken openly on mainstream platforms. A recent commentator's bold statement has ignited a firestorm of debate, crystallizing what millions have been thinking but few dared to say publicly. The assertion is stark. Meghan's rise to prominence came not through Hollywood achievement, but through a strategic relationship with Prince Harry. This isn't relegated to anonymous social media trolls anymore. Respected American media voices are questioning the carefully constructed narrative of self-made success. The fairy tale story of a determined actress who worked her way to the top is collapsing under scrutiny. Before meeting Prince Harry, Meghan was a working actress on a cable television drama. After their relationship began, everything transformed. But was it talent and determination, or proximity to power?
Only got where she was because she slept with the spare and got knocked up. Let's be honest about it. I mean, that's, I guess that's one way to do it, but
the pathway to global influence didn't emerge from decades of Hollywood grinding or building a business empire from nothing. It materialized through a high-profile romance, a pregnancy that captivated the world, and a royal wedding watched by millions. The criticism goes even deeper, striking at the heart of Meghan's feminist brand. Critics argue she committed what some call the cardinal sin of modern feminism, using a romantic relationship with a powerful man to ascend the social and professional ladder. For someone who positions herself as a champion of female empowerment and independence, this creates a troubling contradiction. The woman who speaks endlessly about being a female founder and breaking barriers faces a fundamental question. Without the Sussex title and royal connections, what tangible achievements remain? Americans are asking this question with increasing intensity, and the silence from the Montecito mansion is telling.
Don't sit here and call yourself a female founder when you married the money and you married the prestige. You didn't build anything for yourself. You committed the greatest sin in your Gloria Steinem feminism rulebook.
The timing of this public reckoning couldn't be more striking. Meghan recently attempted to portray herself as a hardworking entrepreneur through an Instagram post set to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, a song that represents working-class struggle. She wanted the world to see her as relatable, juggling multiple projects like any hustling professional. Instead, the post triggered a cascade of criticism, so intense that even devoted supporters struggled to mount a defense. The public isn't accepting the carefully curated image anymore. They're seeing beyond the designer wardrobes, polished PR statements, and strategic social media content. What they're witnessing is a woman who married into extraordinary wealth and status, then rebranded herself as something she never actually built from the ground up. This isn't the beginning of scrutiny, it's the unraveling of a narrative that's been years in the making. Americans love an authentic underdog story, but they have zero tolerance for manufactured success stories that claim credit without merit. That Instagram post featuring 9 to 5 may become legendary for all the wrong reasons, a masterclass in tone-deaf celebrity branding. Meghan attempted to showcase her supposedly demanding work life by creating a montage set to Dolly Parton's working-class anthem. The song embodies the struggle of ordinary Americans, clocking in and out, answering to bosses, barely surviving on modest paychecks. Meghan believed this was the perfect soundtrack for her daily routine. The backlash arrived swiftly and mercilessly. One viral comment captured the absurdity perfectly. The most work she probably has to do each day is decide what designer gear to wear. The observation resonates because it reflects reality. Meghan resides in a $16 million Montecito estate with access to round-the-clock assistants, nannies, personal assistants, publicists, stylists. Her daily experience bears no resemblance to someone working an actual 9 to 5 job. Not even close. Real working Americans understand what 9 to 5 truly means. Waking exhausted, battling traffic, managing difficult customers or demanding supervisors, worrying about bills, squeezing in errands after work, helping children with homework while preparing dinner. It means sacrifice, stress, and precious little glamour. Meghan's version apparently involves photo shoots, carefully staged content creation, and promoting ventures that haven't achieved significant success. The contrast is staggering, and people are rightfully furious about the comparison. What makes this even more insulting is Meghan's audacity to frame herself as relatable to everyday working women while living a lifestyle completely disconnected from their reality. She advocates for female empowerment and supporting working mothers, yet she's never faced the choice between paying rent or buying groceries. She's never skipped lunch to save money or worked overtime to make ends meet. Her challenges involve selecting which private jet to use or which exclusive event to attend. That's not 9 to 5. It's not even in the same universe. Sources reveal that Meghan genuinely believes she works hard. She's convinced that her various projects, networking efforts, and brand-building activities constitute real labor. Being in the public eye certainly comes with unique pressures that most people don't experience. But equating that to the daily grind of ordinary Americans who actually work traditional jobs, that's where credibility evaporates entirely. This reveals a fundamental disconnect from reality, a failure to grasp how privileged her position truly is. The American response has been brutal precisely because they value authenticity above all else. They can detect fraudulence from miles away. When someone attempts to co-opt their struggles while living in luxury, the reaction is visceral. Meghan sought sympathy and relatability. Instead, she exposed herself as completely out of touch. The revelations about her manufactured image were only beginning. Now we must address Meghan's favorite self-descriptor, female founder. She deploys this phrase constantly, in interviews, social media profiles, public appearances, like it's a prestigious credential. But Americans are finally asking the essential question, what exactly did she found? When you examine the details closely, the entire narrative disintegrates rapidly. The viral commentator didn't hold back. Don't call yourself a female founder when you married the money and prestige. You didn't build anything for yourself. These words expose the fundamental dishonesty at the core of Meghan's personal brand. A genuine founder starts with an idea, scrapes together limited resources, takes enormous risks, faces repeated rejection, and slowly builds something from nothing. That's not Meghan's story. Not remotely. Let's examine what Meghan actually founded. She launched a lifestyle blog called The Tig years ago, moderately successful but nothing groundbreaking. It closed when her relationship with Harry became serious. Then came post-royal ventures, American Riviera Orchard, Netflix projects, her podcast. Here's the crucial detail. Every single initiative became possible because of who she married. The Netflix deal materialized because they were the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, not because Meghan had revolutionary content ideas. The brand partnerships, speaking engagements, opportunities, they all trace directly back to that royal connection. Industry insiders acknowledge what everyone already knows. Without the title, without Harry's family history, without that royal mystique, Meghan would be another former cable television actress attempting to pivot into lifestyle branding. Thousands of women are doing exactly that, working exponentially harder with a fraction of the resources. They're not calling themselves founders. They're grinding in obscurity while Meghan receives magazine covers and exclusive deals simply because she wore a tiara at her wedding. The betrayal cuts deeper for American women who genuinely embody the female founder spirit. These are women who maxed out credit cards to launch businesses, who worked second jobs to fund their dreams, who faced investors dismissing their ideas. They built real companies, created actual jobs, generated genuine revenue. Meghan bypassed all of that. She married into wealth and status, then rebranded herself as someone who earned it through entrepreneurial hustle. That's not founding anything. That's strategic positioning. The feminist angle makes it even more infuriating. Meghan constantly invokes feminist principles, champions female independence, advocates for women's empowerment. Yet her entire pathway to success contradicts those values. She leveraged a romantic relationship with a wealthy, powerful man to access opportunities otherwise unavailable to her. In the traditional feminist framework she claims to embrace, that represents the ultimate compromise. Americans are done pretending otherwise. Let's examine Meghan's actual Hollywood career with brutal honesty. The revisionist history happening now is extraordinary. If you listen to how her achievements get described in certain circles, you'd think she was a massive star who sacrificed everything for love. But reality tells a different story. Industry insiders are setting the record straight, and it's not the glamorous narrative Meghan wants people to believe. Suits was her claim to fame, a cable legal drama on USA Network where she played paralegal Rachel Zane. The show had dedicated fans, certainly, but let's maintain perspective. It wasn't Friends. It wasn't Grey's Anatomy. It wasn't remotely close to the cultural phenomenon status of shows that actually transform actors into household names. Meghan was part of an ensemble cast on a moderately successful cable show. That was the peak of her Hollywood career before Harry entered the picture. Entertainment industry sources reveal that Meghan auditioned for countless roles over the years with mixed results at best. She appeared in minor films, secured small guest spots on various shows, and worked the Hollywood circuit like thousands of other aspiring actresses. There's nothing wrong with that grind. It's how the business operates. But the narrative suggesting she was a powerhouse performer who sacrificed a thriving A-list career for royal duty? Hollywood insiders quietly laugh at that fiction. She was a working actress with one notable credit, and even on Suits, she wasn't the lead. Before meeting Harry, Meghan was already exploring her next move. Sources suggest she was networking heavily, attending strategic events, positioning herself for lifestyle brand opportunities because she understood her acting career had limitations. Smart move, honestly. Many actors pivot to other ventures when they realize they won't become the next Meryl Streep. But then she met a prince, and suddenly everything transformed. The opportunities that followed weren't because casting directors were pursuing her aggressively. They materialized because she was dating, then married to, royalty. The Netflix deal perfectly illustrates this dynamic. Meghan and Harry signed that reported $100 million contract, and it was immediately framed as validation of their creative vision and star power. But entertainment executives speaking off the record tell a different story. Netflix wanted the royal connection, insider access, the potential for explosive monarchy revelations. They weren't signing Meghan Markle, the actress, or Harry, the documentary filmmaker. They were signing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and everything that title represented. American entertainment media is finally acknowledging what everyone in Hollywood already knew. Meghan's career trajectory launched like a rocket the moment she got involved with Harry, and it had nothing to do with her talent or body of work. It had everything to do with who she married. Recent reports suggest Meghan attempted to compare her Netflix partnership with Harry to the Obamas' relationship with the streaming platform. Yes, that's correct. Meghan apparently sees parallels between her situation and that of a two-term United States president and his accomplished attorney wife. The audacity is genuinely staggering. Let's examine why this comparison is wildly inappropriate. Barack Obama served as the 44th president for 8 years. Before that, U.S. Senator, State Senator, constitutional law professor, community organizer. Michelle Obama graduated from Princeton and Harvard Law School, worked as a lawyer, served as Associate Dean at the University of Chicago, held executive positions at the university's medical center. Their credentials are impeccable, their public service documented, their achievements measurable and significant. Now consider what Meghan and Harry bring. Harry was born into royalty and served in the military. Respectable, but he didn't build anything from scratch. Meghan was an actress on a cable show. Together, they left the royal family and signed a Netflix deal largely promising insider royal revelations and drama. The Obamas secured their Netflix deal based on decades of public service, genuine global influence, and proven ability to create meaningful content that educates and inspires. The comparison isn't just a stretch, it's an entirely different universe. American media outlets didn't hesitate to highlight these vast differences. Articles appeared almost immediately, emphasizing that the Obamas actually earned their platform through years of hard work, sacrifice, and genuine accomplishment. They didn't marry into success. They built it through education, public service, and dedication to causes larger than themselves. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's Netflix content has been criticized as self-indulgent, focused primarily on personal grievances, lacking the substance that makes Obama productions compelling. Sources reveal that Meghan genuinely believes she and the Obamas operate in similar circles now. She sees herself as part of this exclusive club of influential Americans, creating important content. But the American public isn't buying it. They recognize the difference between someone who served their country at the highest level and someone who married a prince, then departed because royal life proved too challenging. They understand the distinction between Michelle Obama's decades of professional achievement and Meghan's modest acting career followed by strategic social climbing. The Netflix comparison might be the clearest example yet of Meghan's fundamental misunderstanding of how Americans view success and credibility. They respect people who earn their position through merit, who invest the work, who sacrifice for something greater than themselves. They don't respect people who marry well, then act like they're on the same level as actual changemakers. Meghan's recent explanation for disabling Instagram comments deserves examination because her reasoning is almost as revealing as the real motivation everyone suspects. She claims she turned off comments not just to protect herself or her team, but to protect her supporters from negativity. How noble, how considerate, how completely unconvincing. Americans saw through this carefully crafted explanation immediately. One social media analyst stated bluntly, "She just doesn't like seeing negativity, period. It's not about protecting anyone else. It's about creating a bubble where Meghan only receives praise, compliments, and positive reinforcement. It's about controlling the narrative so tightly that no dissenting voices can penetrate her carefully curated digital world." That level of control reveals something deeply uncomfortable about how she handles criticism. Consider what she's actually communicating with this decision. By disabling comments, Meghan essentially admits she can't handle the same scrutiny every other public figure faces daily. Politicians, actors, athletes, business leaders, they all deal with negative comments. Some ignore them, some engage with critics, some use humor to deflect. But they leave comments open, because that's part of being in the public eye. You don't get to have a platform, influence, and attention without accepting that people will disagree, criticize, and sometimes be harsh. But Meghan wants it both ways. She desires the adoration, magazine covers, speaking engagements, brand deals, and influence that accompany being a public figure. But she rejects the criticism, accountability, and uncomfortable reality that not everyone thinks she's amazing. So she creates an echo chamber where only positive voices exist, then frames it as protecting others. It's manipulative, and Americans are calling it out. Royal commentators have noted an interesting pattern. Meghan talks constantly about authenticity, being real, showing up as her genuine self. Yet she can't handle authentic reactions from the public when those reactions aren't flattering. She preaches about important conversations and difficult dialogues, but won't allow those conversations on her own platform. The hypocrisy is glaring and undermines every claim she makes about meaningful engagement. Sources suggest the real reason for disabling comments goes deeper than avoiding negativity. It's about image control. Every comment section tells a story about public sentiment. If Meghan's posts were flooded with criticism, questions, or skepticism, that would contradict the narrative her PR team worked so hard to maintain. Better to have no comments at all than comments revealing how many people aren't buying what she's selling. The Instagram situation is revealing in ways Meghan probably didn't intend. It shows someone so fragile in the face of criticism that she must eliminate any possibility of hearing it. Americans who value free speech and open dialogue are not impressed. Now let's examine one of the most out-of-touch moments in recent Meghan Markle history. The exclusive vegan dinner party that perfectly encapsulated everything Americans find frustrating about her brand of activism. Meghan appeared as guest of honor at A Seat at the Table, a women-only vegan banquet hosted by British CEO Emma Grede. On the surface, it sounds pleasant. But examine the details, and it becomes a masterclass in privileged preaching. All the predictable elements were present: trendy wine labels, a chef delivering speeches about regenerative food missions. Then came the proclamation: abandoning meat and dairy is the only way we will have food for generations to come. Meghan sat nodding, in apparent full agreement with this sweeping declaration about how everyone should eat. This is where working-class Americans completely lost patience. It's remarkably easy to preach about regenerative food and plant-based diets when you're wealthy. When you can afford $15 per pound organic vegetables and specialty vegan products costing triple what regular groceries cost, Sure, lecture everyone about their food choices. But when you're a struggling family, barely making ends meet, when you're choosing between rent or groceries, when you're stretching every dollar just to feed your children, those choices simply aren't available. The disconnect is absolutely staggering. Meghan lives in a world with personal chefs, unlimited grocery budgets, and access to the finest organic produce money can buy. She's never stood in a supermarket calculating whether she can afford both milk and bread that week. She's never fed a family of 4 on $50 while ensuring everyone gets adequate protein and nutrients. Her reality is so removed from average Americans that she genuinely doesn't understand why people find her food activism insulting. The backlash wasn't just about vegan preaching. It was about the exclusivity of the entire event. A women-only banquet at an upscale venue where Meghan gets treated like royalty while discussing how regular people should change their eating habits. Americans saw it for exactly what it was: elitism disguised as activism. Wealthy people, sitting in their bubble, congratulating each other for enlightened choices, with zero understanding of what life is actually like for the vast majority. Social media erupted with working parents sharing grocery struggles, posting pictures of weekly food budgets, explaining why they buy conventional meat and dairy instead of expensive alternatives. They weren't asking for sympathy, they were making a point. Meghan has no business telling anyone how to eat when she's never faced the financial constraints dictating most people's food choices. The privilege is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Americans are done being lectured by someone so completely out of touch. Something fascinating is happening in how Meghan Markle gets covered on opposite sides of the Atlantic, and the shift is absolutely remarkable. For years, British media took criticism for being harsh on Meghan. She painted herself as a victim of relentless tabloid attacks, racist coverage, and unfair treatment from UK press. But now, American media has turned far more critical than their British counterparts ever were. The irony is almost too perfect. Royal watchers are noting this dramatic reversal with genuine surprise. The same American outlets that initially championed Meghan as a breath of fresh air for the monarchy, as a modern woman shaking up an outdated institution, are now publishing increasingly skeptical pieces about her authenticity. Commentators who once defended her against British tabloids are now asking pointed questions about her motivations, credibility, and actual accomplishments. The protective bubble has popped, and Americans are assessing her with fresh, unforgiving eyes. Insiders suggest the American dream doesn't include becoming a princess by marriage, then claiming self-made status. That's the fundamental disconnect. Americans celebrate people who pull themselves up by their bootstraps, who overcome obstacles through hard work and determination, who build something from nothing. They love an underdog story. They admire genuine achievement. What they don't admire is someone who married into wealth and status, then acts like they earned it through their own merit, while simultaneously complaining about how difficult everything has been. The contrast in coverage is striking when comparing current American media reports to British coverage from just years ago. British tabloids were accused of being unfairly harsh, of having hidden agendas, of treating Meghan differently because of her race. But American journalists are now expressing many of the same observations the British press made, just without the baggage of being dismissible as racist or bitter. When Americans point out inconsistencies in Meghan's narrative, it hits differently. These are her own people, the audience she's trying to court, and they're not impressed. Sources close to media circles reveal that American editors are greenlighting more critical Meghan coverage because audiences are demanding it. The public appetite for fawning profiles has evaporated. Readers want accountability, fact-checking, someone to ask tough questions that aren't being answered. Why hasn't American Riviera Orchard launched properly yet? What happened to all those Netflix projects announced with such fanfare? Where's the actual substance behind carefully staged photo opportunities? But here's the most telling part of this transatlantic shift. British media can now point to American coverage and say, "We told you so." The criticisms that got UK journalists labeled as attackers are now being echoed by mainstream American outlets. Suddenly, those same observations seem more legitimate. It's becoming impossible for Meghan to play the victim card when her own countrymen are questioning her narrative. She can't blame British tabloids or royal racism when Americans are independently reaching similar conclusions about her authenticity and credibility. Let's address the elephant in the room that Meghan keeps trying to redecorate: the Netflix situation. Recently, Meghan attempted to put a positive spin on what industry insiders call a massive scaling back of her relationship with the streaming giant. She's trying to frame it as evolution, as natural progression into new opportunities. But behind the scenes, sources tell a very different story, and Americans are seeing straight through the carefully constructed PR narrative. The reality is that Netflix is essentially done with the Sussex brand as initially envisioned. The big-budget docuseries, exclusive content, groundbreaking projects, supposed to justify that reported $100 million deal. Most never materialized, and those that did underperformed significantly. Harry and Meghan, their personal documentary, generated headlines but not the sustained viewership Netflix hoped for. The Polo documentary barely made a ripple. Other announced projects seem to have quietly disappeared into development limbo. Entertainment industry sources reveal Netflix executives are frustrated. They paid premium prices for premium access, expecting explosive revelations and compelling content that would keep subscribers glued to their screens. What they received instead was a couple wanting control over every production aspect, precious about their image, who ultimately didn't deliver the raw, authentic storytelling that makes successful documentaries. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as one insider bluntly stated. But here's where Meghan's spin machine went into overdrive. Instead of acknowledging the relationship isn't working as planned, she's trying to position it as something she chose. Reports surfaced suggesting Meghan is pivoting away from Netflix to focus on other ventures, framing it as her decision to explore new opportunities. It's classic damage control. Get ahead of the story, make it look like you're in control, pretend the breakup was your idea. Americans invented this playbook and recognize it immediately when someone tries using it on them. The comparison to the Obamas becomes even more painful in this context. Barack and Michelle Obama's production company, Higher Ground, has produced critically acclaimed documentaries and films for Netflix. American Factory won an Oscar. Becoming was watched by millions. Crip Camp received widespread praise. Their content delivers substance, quality, and viewership. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's output has been criticized as self-indulgent, poorly executed, and far less interesting than the hype suggested. What's emerging is a pattern Americans are noticing across all of Meghan's ventures. Big announcements, massive hype, promises of groundbreaking content or products, followed by underdelivery, excuses, and eventually a pivot to the next big thing. American Riviera Orchard was announced with great fanfare, but still hasn't properly launched. The Spotify podcast deal ended in what was reportedly mutual disappointment. Netflix is clearly scaling back involvement. At what point does the pattern become impossible to ignore? Americans are asking that question louder every day, and Meghan's attempts to spin failure into strategic choice aren't landing the way she hopes. Now we've arrived at the heart of the matter, the undeniable truth Americans are finally saying out loud. Meghan Markle's entire post-royal brand, every venture, every opportunity, every door that's opened for her, it all relies on one thing: Harry's title and the royal connections that come with it. Strip away the Duchess of Sussex label, remove the proximity to the British monarchy, eliminate the intrigue of someone who married into one of the world's most famous families. And what's actually left? Americans are concluding the answer is not much. This is the career blueprint that's been exposed, and it's remarkably simple. Meet a prince, marry into royalty. Leverage that royal status to secure massive deals with Netflix, Spotify, and various brands. Leave the royal family while keeping the titles. Continue to trade on royal connections and insider knowledge while simultaneously criticizing the institution that gave you relevance in the first place. Rebrand yourself as an independent entrepreneur and activist. Claim you're self-made, hope nobody connects the dots. But Americans are connecting those dots now, and the picture isn't flattering. Every major opportunity Meghan has received since leaving royal duties traces directly back to her marriage to Harry. The speaking engagements at corporate events commanding six-figure fees. She's invited because she's the Duchess of Sussex, not because she built a Fortune 500 company. The brand partnerships and endorsement opportunities. Companies want the royal association, the glamour of someone who wore a tiara at Westminster Abbey. The media attention and magazine covers, all driven by her connection to the monarchy she publicly distances herself from. Industry experts are whispering what's becoming increasingly obvious. Without Harry and without that Sussex title, Meghan would be competing with thousands of other former actresses trying to launch lifestyle brands. She'd be one voice among millions on social media, hoping for engagement. She'd be pitching projects to studios who might take a meeting out of courtesy, but probably wouldn't greenlight anything. The harsh reality of Hollywood is that there are countless talented, hardworking people who never get the opportunities Meghan has been handed. The only difference is she married the right person. The feminist contradiction reaches its peak here. Meghan positions herself as a champion of women building their own success, of female empowerment and independence. Yet her entire career post-Suits depends entirely on her husband's family name and the status that comes with it. She didn't build an empire. She married into access, then monetized that access while claiming to be a founder and entrepreneur. That's not breaking barriers. That's the oldest strategy in the book, repackaged with modern feminist language to make it sound revolutionary. Americans are tired of the performance. They're exhausted by the constant rebranding, the victim narratives, the claims of hardship from someone living in unimaginable privilege. They're done pretending that Meghan's success is anything other than strategic positioning based on who she married. The career blueprint has been fully exposed, and no amount of PR spin can put that truth back in the box. The question now isn't whether Americans see through it. It's what happens next when the royal connection is the only thing keeping the brand alive. And even that association is wearing dangerously thin.